Guys, welcome to another video. You've got Mr. Everything English, and today let's cover everything you need for AQA English Language Paper 2 question number 3. Everything Education. Tuition for Maths, English and Science. Paper 2 question 3. We go back to language for this one. This question, guys, it looks at source A and it looks normally at one paragraph from source A. And we've already done this question in paper 1 question 2. We've already done the language question. However, in paper 1 it's worth 8 marks. In paper 2 it's worth 12 marks. Now what does that mean, guys? This is what I advise you all to do. For this question, guys, we are looking to spend 13 minutes on this question. And in 13 minutes we are looking to write 3 paragraphs. However, these 3 paragraphs, we are looking to do the following. 2 of these paragraphs, guys, we are looking to write point, reference, technique, effect, zoom, effect, and link. And you're looking to spend 5 minutes on your first paragraph. Then you move on to your second paragraph, guys, and you do point, reference, technique, effect, zoom, effect, and link. And you're spending 5 minutes on this paragraph. Something that we've done already. We did the exact same thing in paper 1. But now we have an extra 3 minutes. And for the last paragraph, guys, we do point, reference, technique, effect, and you spend 3 minutes on this paragraph. And that is how we are using our extra 3 minutes. We are adding a smaller paragraph at the end. So we're doing 2 pretzels and 1 pretty paragraph. That is how I would like you all to structure this exam. If you have time and you can do the zooming in, go for it. But as a benchmark, 5 minutes for the first pretzel, 5 minutes for the second pretzel, which you've done already because it's exactly what we did in paper 1. And then, guys, do a pretty paragraph where you don't zoom in, 3 minutes and you're done. So 12 marks, 13 minutes, 3 paragraphs. That is the kind of 3 paragraphs that we are doing. Now this question, guys, it looks at language. English loves language. Now what does it mean by language, guys? This talks about language devices and it's talking about words and phrases. Now, as always, when it says words and phrases, it's talking about verbs, it's talking about adjectives, it's talking about nouns, and it's talking about adverbs. Now, very quickly, guys, what is a verb? A verb is an action. A verb is a doing word. So right now I am talking. Talking is a verb. An adjective describes a noun. So if I said this pen is beautiful, beautiful is the adjective because it describes the noun, which is the name of this. It's a pen. And finally, guys, an adverb describes a verb. So we analyze that stuff over there. And then, guys, we must talk about language devices. Language devices, you've got a simile. A simile is when you compare 2 nouns using like or as. This pen is like a wand. A metaphor is when you compare 2 nouns without like or as. This pen is a wand. Personification is when you give something non-human a human feature. This pen was laying on my hand. Number 4, guys, is when you use rule of 3 adjectives or 3 phrases to describe one thing. This pen is beautiful, it's powerful, and it's majestic. I've given 3 adjectives to describe one thing. Hyperbole is when you over exaggerate something. I cannot live without this pen. That's a hyperbole. Onomatopoeia is when you have words that describe sounds. This pen goes swoosh against the iPad when I write. And finally, guys, you have symbolism. It's when an object has a wider meaning. So to you, this might just be a pen, but this pen for me symbolizes, I don't know, my entire life. It's a bit of a hyperbole, it's a bit over the top, but you get my drift. Language devices, words and phrases. Now, how do we organize this? So remember, guys, we're doing pretzel paragraphs. So look, if you've got pretzel, point, reference, technique, effect, zoom, effect, and link. When you do your technique, try to pick a language device And when you zoom in, when you go back to your quote and you zoom into a verb or an adjective or a noun or an adverb. Or you can do two language devices. Or if you can't find any language devices, you can just do verbs and adjectives and nouns. It's absolutely fine. They are full mark answers where students just analyze this stuff. But on the day, you keep your options open. Decide what's available for you and what isn't available. But guys, look, in paragraph 1 and paragraph 2, we do all of this. And in paragraph 3, you cut it there. So for your technique, you might go that way or you might go that way. Now, what's the mark scheme for this question? The mark scheme, guys, remains exactly the same as it was for paper 1. To get top band, to get 12 out of 12, guys, we are marked on our textual detail, we are marked on our subject terminology, and we are marked on our effects. So what do these three things mean for us? When it comes to textual detail, guys, this here is talking about our reference. When it comes to subject terminology, this here is talking about our technique. And when it comes to our effects, naturally, guys, is talking about the effect of our language. Now, why do we do a point? We do a point to make sure that we have answered the question. Then we zoom in. Why do we zoom in? Because when we go back and we zoom in to our quote, we are quoting again and we are using subject terminology again because we're going to pick another technique or we're going to zoom into a verb and so on. And then after zooming in, we explain the effect of whatever we've zoomed into. So we are doing the effect one more time. And this all allows us to write in detail. Because in each paragraph that we do effect twice. We do subject terminology twice. We do textual detail twice. Beautiful. Now, that's the detail. But sometimes someone might say, sir, I'm writing a lot, but I'm still not getting a high mark. That's because you're probably not being on task. The word perceptive is your waffle check. It checks that just because you've written a lot doesn't mean you're going to get a high mark. Just because you've written in detail doesn't mean you're going to get a high mark. It checks the quality of your work. How good is your analysis? That is why, guys, the most important part of the paragraph is our effect. Now, at the end of the paragraph, we do our link. And the reason we do our link is for us to check if we've remained on task. If you get to the end of your paragraph and you can't link your argument back to your point, then you might have waffled at some point. You might have said that you might have said the weather is beautiful, and then by the end of the paragraph, you might be talking about the cows and the sheeps. If that's the case, you maybe have gone off task, you may have waffled. But as something you must understand, when it comes to this, guys, you're marked on your reference, technique, effect, zoom, and effect. This is what you're marked upon based upon the mark scheme. We do this and this to make sure we are sticking to the question, but the most important part is your effect. So guys, I promise you, you don't need this. This is why I created Pretzel. As long as you follow Pretzel, you're sorted. Because Pretzel naturally will tick off the mark scheme for you and allowing you to do it in detail and perceptively. Hence why I'm not a fan of the shorter ones like P and Peter and so on. So that's the mark scheme. We're doing 3 paragraphs. This is what we're analyzing. And now let's just look at some model answers, guys. Here is an answer that got 11 out of 12. And this was published by AQA. Now again, if you look at this, guys, you've got 3 paragraphs, 2 bigger paragraphs, 1 smaller paragraph, and look what the student speaks about, guys. They speak about adjectives, they speak about metaphors, they speak about verbs, they speak about adverbs. Now what's my point? They got 11 out of 12. They got top band, 1 mark away from full marks. But what do they analyze, guys? They predominantly analyze this stuff and a metaphor. What is my point? And I'm going to keep on saying it. Don't get lost in trying to pick complicated techniques that you can't do anything with. If you don't know what juxtaposition is or how to explain the effect of it, don't pick it, stick to verbs, pick what you're good at. All right guys, now let's plan one paragraph. So for this question, we were told to look at lines 20 and 28. And the question said, how does the writer use language? How does the writer use this stuff to describe eating fantail sweets? Have their mouths chipped open with a cold chisel. This here, guys, we will use it as our reference. So remember, guys, let's say we're planning a pretzel paragraph. Point, reference, technique, effect, zoom, effect, and link. That's my reference complete. Now, what's going to be my point? Describe eating fantail sweets, guys. Eating fantail sweets was extremely painful. That's going to be my point. What's going to be my technique? My technique here, guys, is hyperbole, because this, of course, is over the top, but it is over the top to show how chewy these sweets are. They are so chewy that your mouth was almost closed, sealed shut, and you couldn't get your words out. And I'm gonna zoom in. I'm gonna zoom in to the word chisel. Now, I know chisel is a noun, but rather than talking about chisel as a noun, I'm gonna go into the symbolism. And what does a chisel represent? For me, guys, the symbolism, when I zoom into a chisel, the symbolism of a chisel shows just how hard these sweets are. Imagine, it's like saying someone's cracking away at the mouth of these children because they've been sealed shut so badly. And there is one paragraph planned. All you do is you pick one more paragraph like this, and then you do one point, reference, technique, effect, and you are complete, and you are done. Guys, that is very simple. That is one pretzel paragraph. Basic point that answers the question, nothing complicated. Remember, we're not marked upon our point. I've got my quote, I've got my technique, I've got my zooming in, and I can move on. For my second quote, guys, maybe I'll talk about how it can give a donkey lockjaw. Maybe I could talk about how any fillings or second teeth would be removed. There's so much in there that talks about the experience of eating fantail sweets. Now remember, if you can't find language devices, just talk about verbs, just talk about adjectives, just talk about nouns. For example, you might just talk about how your teeth would be removed instantly. And you might talk about the adverb instantly. But don't try to pick complicated language devices, wasting time in your exam. Keep it strong, keep it simple, because the most important part of your paragraph is your effect. All right, guys, so pretzel paragraphs, 2 full pretzels, 1 half pretty paragraph. You're analyzing this stuff. That's the mark scheme. 3 paragraphs, 13 minutes, and you're good to go. Guys, my advice to you guys, if you're revising, which you should be revising, open up past papers. If you go to everythingeducation.co.uk, click on past papers, go to English language paper 2 and try it. Read the insert, plan 3 paragraphs, write the paragraphs out, and see how you get on. All right, guys, it's been Mr. Everything English.